Hey there, Jordan Chariton. It is Thursday, March 29th, 2018. It is about 4:30 here on the East Coast. Got a little new setup in my apartment. No, we are not in a professional studio, but the origins of the media revolution, we will not go quiet just because we have poor lighting and not the best equipment. However, I am using my microphone. I am using my microphone, my new Yeti microphone. So tell me if you could hear me. Tell me how it sounds. My microphone. Whoa, I am using my microphone. Tell me how the audio is, because I'm trying a new thing here with my microphone. Let me see if you can see it. Ooh, ooh. No, you can't see it. Nope, you can't see the microphone. So I'll just lift it up so you can see how badass this is. Woo, there we go. I just got this. I'm using it for podcasts and many other things. So trying to boost the audio quality here a little bit. And then hopefully as we grow and flourish, we will be in a studio. So I have been playing a little hurt. Have a nice little cold. So if I sound raspy and a little ill, sorry about that. Just been a tough week and I'm dealing with a bit of a cold. But there's a lot of stories going on right now. I do have something on Trump today. I tend not to cover Trump that much, but God. Actually, I have two things on Trump. One of them is not really directly related to Trump, but something his press secretary, Sarah Sanders, said. The kitchen is the new studio. Suck on that, P. Diddy. I agree, Clockwork. Yeah, I moved to my kitchen because it's better for my back. I just had back surgery, so bear with me. I am hopefully going to be having some technical help where I could set up a mini little studio here in my New York City apartment. So I appreciate you guys in the early days of this media revolution sticking with what isn't a terrific visual. But would you rather a beautiful, wonderful, well-lit motion graphic studio on CNN or MSNBC? Or would you rather the truth? I side with the truth. So, lot to get into today. Let's do it. You know, a lot of progressives are, you know, kind of feeling like, yeah, we have all these candidates, but we're losing. We're not winning. As Trump says, winning. We're going to be winning so much your head will spin. Progressives have felt that we're not winning enough. You know, you've seen some losses in the Illinois primary last week. Speaking of, I interviewed Anthony Clark. He was a progressive candidate in District 7 in Illinois. He did lose last week, but I just interviewed him for my podcast, Beat the Press. So you could go check that out. We're going to be putting it on SoundCloud, iTunes, and elsewhere. And that is up now on youtube.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. We spoke for almost an hour, I would say. And that's up right now. But there was actually an interesting article in all places on Politico.com. So I want to read that to you. Oh, as I move this up here. Sorry, I moved it too much. That actually shows, Jordan, learn to turn your lights on in front of you and turn them off behind you. Well, let me see how this looks. The things I do for the peeps. How's that? Are we better? Oh no, that's not good. Oh boy. I'll get the oh, it was better. It was better. All right, I'll do that again. Here we go. See? You see what the media revolution looks like? We turn the lights on, we turn the lights off. Oh, I do look a little better. Hold on, I could even get a light. Hold on. This is what raw journalism looks like right here. So what we're going to do here, how's that? Can you see me? Can you hear me? So what's going on is there's actually more progressive candidates running, and there are less establishment candidates running. Is that better, folks? Tell me if that's a little better for you, because I want you to be able to see me. So, oh, there we go. So you got, you need to tell ghost stories. So you got this article from thepolitico.com, how the Bernie wing won the Democratic primaries. Well, you might ask, what do they mean, how the Bernie wing won the Democratic primaries? Well, let's take a look. And I hate to say it, but Politico, it's one of the rare smart articles you'll ever see from Politico. With his primary election victory last week, Illinois Congressman Dan Lipinski, a blue dog and cultural conservative, won the first major 2018 battle between the Democratic Party's establishment and progressive wings. But don't be confused about what it means. The war is already over and the establishment lost. Even though only 2 states have actually voted so far this primary election season, Texas, a red state, redoubt, and Illinois, a blue state stronghold, the battle for supremacy this primary season is all but complete. In state after state, the left is proving to be the animating force in Democratic primaries, producing a surge of candidates who are forcefully driving the party towards a more liberal orientation on nearly every issue. These candidates are running on an agenda that moves the party beyond its recent comfort zone and towards single-payer health care, stricter gun control, a $15 minimum wage, more expansive LGBT rights, and greater protections for immigrants. In the surest sign of the reoriented issue landscape, they're joined by some of the most prominent prospects in the 2020 Democratic primary field. Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, and Kamala Harris among them, who are embracing the same agenda. Well, that's where I kind of gotta call bullshit on my friends at Politico.com, who aren't really my friends. Let's not start the rumorville. And let me know if this is okay for you. I know it's not perfect, but can you see me, or is this too much of a ghost story? I see the light a little bit, so let me know if this lighting is better for you than the light in the back. And I actually have an idea to make it even better tomorrow. So, hey. Again, would you rather CNN and the beautiful studio, or would you rather Jordan, who's technologically illiterate, doing it on the fly? We could see your ugly boat race. It's a ghost story. Hey, doing the best I can. So, first of all, Politico, give me a break. Give me a break. Oh, joining other progressives. Lower the camera, eyes 1/3 down. Okay, I'll lower the camera. You have Kamala Harris, Kirsten Gillibrand, Cory Booker, who just suddenly decided to not take donations from special interests, who just suddenly, oh God, I'm trying my best, folks, who just suddenly decided, Kirsten Gillibrand just suddenly decided, I'm not going to take money from Wall Street banks, who just suddenly decided, I'm not going to take money from special interests. Cory Booker, who said, I'm not going to take money from Wall Street. And now we're putting them as the progressive contenders for 2020? Get the hell out of here, Politico. Get the hell out of here. So, here we go. Moving back, because most of the article was pretty good. These candidates, according to data compiled by the Brookings Institution's Primaries Project, the number of self-identified, non-incumbent progressive candidates in Texas spiked compared with the previous 2 election years. This year, we're nearly 4 times as many progressive candidates, as in 2016. Meanwhile, the number of moderate and establishment candidates remained flat for the past 3 elections in Texas. Even in Illinois, where the Democratic Party holds most of the levers of power, the data tells a similar story. There were more progressive candidates this year, the primary project reports, than moderate and establishment candidates by a count of 25 to 21. So, yes, they were not victorious, hold on, let me see if I can make this better. They were not victorious candidates, but there were more progressive candidates in Illinois. There are more progressive candidates in Texas. These are positive things. And just like I spoke with Anthony Clark, you could watch that interview. It's on the youtube.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. I mean, the hoops and the hurdles and the rigging that went on in his primary in the 7th District against Representative Danny Davis is happening all over the country to progressives. Their signs being stolen off lawns, them being challenged to even get on the ballot by the incumbents. There's a lot of shenanigans going on against progressive candidates. However, there are still more progressive candidates running, and there is a reduced number of establishment candidates running, and this is a positive thing. Let me read you just a little bit more. In Lipinski's case, the congressman didn't believe the strength of the opposition until it was nearly too late. He scrambled in time to defeat Maria Newman, his Bernie Sanders-backed challenger, but the slim margin of victory raises considerable doubts about his future, including whether he could hang on in 2020 when progressives will return in force to try to finish him off in a presidential year when the Democratic turnout is likely to be even higher. The veteran congressman, who was abandoned in his hour of need by some of his more liberal colleagues in the House and left for dead by the House Democrats' campaign arm, wrote in an article this week at Real Clear Politics that he was struck by one progressive member's greeting once he returned to Washington. Quote, "Congratulations might be unexpected coming for me, but if they'd taken you out, they'd be coming after everybody." The party's ascendant left is coming after everybody, regardless of the outcome in Lipinski's race. Progressive energy is pushing through the primaries, most notably in the proliferation of Trump backlash grassroots groups like Indivisible, not in love with Indivisible, Justice Democrats, and Brand New Congress that are teaming with activists inspired by Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign. There's no comparable counterweight within the establishment. Longtime Democrat incumbents, most of whose voting records are far more liberal than that of Lipinski, an abortion rights opponent who voted against the Affordable Care Act in 2010, have been caught in the crosshairs of these activist groups in some of the bluest states on the map, among them California, Massachusetts, and New York. In Chicago, that led to the stiffest primary competition to date for Lipinski and fellow Democratic Congressman Mike Quigley, with both incumbents facing challengers seeking to outflank them on the left. These progressives aren't necessarily sweeping races up and down the ballot, but they are winning enough of them and generating enough grassroots pressure to continue driving the party leftward. So the bottom line is, yes, it's not all victories and sunshine, but there are more victories happening. And also there are more progressive candidates. Thus, the law of averages is moving the incumbent candidates to the left. And I agree, Snoopy. Chicago is a shoot now worse than ever. I'm trying not to curse to see if the YouTube gods will let me, have some money. James Michael Sarvis says it best, DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. They have won several contests. Adetukambo Adetona, sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. Excellent. The progressives are doing good work. However, they have a bit of a mountain to climb. Yeah, I agree with you, but here's the thing. Now I want to sing, "Ain't no mountain high." Now, oligarchy and the Democratic establishment was not created overnight, folks. So it's not going to be toppled overnight. However, that's a remarkable thing that you have more progressive candidates running than in Texas. Let me repeat, you have more progressive candidates running in Texas than establishment candidates. That article shows you that the establishment candidate growth is flatlined. They're having the same amount of establishment candidates running, but basically progressive candidates in Texas have doubled. So you are going to start seeing more victories. Now, some of those victories are going to be local levels, like a Virginia House of Delegates, Democratic Socialists of America, or a Seattle councilwoman, shawarma savant. But you are starting to see, it's a domino effect. The more progressive candidates you have, the more victories you have, but also the more you are going to drive the incumbents to the left. Of course, they don't mean it. they don't mean it, but you hold them accountable. So, for example, a candidate like Anthony Clark, who just lost in Illinois, he runs. Now he's going to have more name recognition when he runs again in 2020, which he told me in an interview. Again, you could watch it here on the YouTube channel. He's going to run again. You get more name recognition. You also have 2 years before you run again to build up an organization and to build up your grassroots organizing. A lot of these candidates, like Anthony, never intended to run for Congress and decided to run pretty much 5 minutes before they were going to be running. So really what you have here are a lot of these progressive candidates are winging it. Yes, I do understand that we want them to win now. But as Mama once told me, you know, all good things come to, what do they say? All good things happen to those who are patient. So you got to keep trucking along. I believe a lot of the progressive candidates that are running this year, if they lose and then run again in 2020, will win. Because a lot of them are seeing, you know, a lot of shenanigans where, like Anthony's case, again, watch the interview, Anthony's case, I mean, the incumbent was literally challenging him in court so that he couldn't get on the ballot. He was getting harassing phone calls. You have his yard signs were being taken down and stolen by the incumbent. I mean, these are things not just happening in the 7th District of Illinois, folks. And while, as we pass 100 viewers, let me post in the chat here my Patreon. So I don't want to say it 20 times, but your support is going to get me back in the field. Your support is going to get me to hire a camera person and lighting person so we could create a studio where I'm not telling a ghost story. Yesterday we had, I think, 10 to 15 new signups. So thank you to each one of you that is subscribing at patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. You'll get my podcasts. You'll get my video diaries with the behind the scenes. You know, people keep telling me they're getting 404 on that link. I don't know why. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to type in the address. You won't be able to click on this, but at least you know what to type into your browser. So it's patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. You click that into your browser. You go there. You could subscribe at $2 a month. You could get you could subscribe at $5 a month. You could subscribe at $10 a month. And yes, Adedakandu, I can't pronounce your name. He says, yes, you messed my name. You are very right on the progressive making ground. I believe that more wins are on the horizon, and this is why the Kamalas are all jumping on the bandwagon. Absolutely. They are all jumping on the bandwagon. And now there's suddenly Kamala Harris, who met with Hillary Clinton's top donors in the Hamptons, which if you don't know, the Hamptons is like where the pretty rich people go over the summer in Long Island, like mega wealthy, the super rich. That's where they go. And Kamala Harris, who now is suddenly progressive, oh, she was, you know, greasing the elbows of Clinton donors in the Hamptons last summer. Kirsten Gillibrand, who's been taking more money from Wall Street than anybody else other than Chuck Schumer, now all of a sudden she's a progressive. No. Cory Booker? No. We weren't born yesterday. We knew what Hillary Clinton was, and we know who those are. Okay? I believe actions speak louder than words. When Kirsten Gillibrand, when Cory Booker, when Kamala Harris, when they want to come out strongly for Medicare for All and then barnstorm across the country for it, when they want to stop taking money from pharmaceutical companies, when they want to stop taking money permanently from big banks, when they want to come out for free public college tuition, then I'll talk to them. But let's not make any mistake, folks. These people do not have a record of pushing this type of legislation. So we don't know. They could say whatever they want to win the Democratic primary. We don't know if elected, if they will actually follow through. James Michael Sarvish just said they won't follow through. The greatest man ever says they think we're stupid. I do agree. I do agree. And that's why I'm trying to get back in the field. So I'm not reporting to you from my ghost-litten apartment. I hope this is a little better. I have a little light on me. I hope you could see me. I know it's not perfect. But my Patreon, again, I'm going to say it throughout the broadcast, patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. $2 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, or higher. You'll get video diaries, you'll get podcasts, you're going to get exclusive photos, and you're going to get exclusive news, because I am going to be announcing the name of my soon-to-be launched company over the coming weeks. And patrons will get it first. And I think you're going to like it. So, I will put the link in. The information is why we come, not the lighting. From your lips to if we have a God's ears. Now, moving on to another story that I think has to do with electoral prospects. And frankly, I think if the media or the Democratic Party wants to rest on their laurels and believe this, I think we're in trouble, folks. So, this is the headline from thehill.com. Here we go. CNN poll. Majority thinks Trump will lose re-election in 2020. And before I read this to you, I want to tell you that I think this is very, very dangerous, because I saw CNN then reporting this, that, it's already a foregone conclusion Trump is going to lose re-election. And then you got MSNBC reporting the same thing. And it really struck me in the way they were talking about this. The pundits, they have not learned anything from 2016. They have not learned anything. So, right now, if the election were held today, and they ran Kamala Harris against Donald Trump, or Cory Booker against Donald Trump, or Kirsten Gillibrand against Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump would be reelected. Without a doubt. Yes, that was a burp. Thank you for noticing. Keeping it classy here at Jordan Chariton Reports. Now, it doesn't matter that this poll, and I'll read you a little bit of the poll here. So, a majority of Americans in a new poll don't expect President Trump to win another term in the White House. A CNN poll conducted by SSRS finds 54% of respondents think Trump will lose his campaign for re-election in 2020. Just 40% of Americans expect Trump will win re-election in 2020. The numbers are similar to the percentage who expected former President Obama would win re-election at the same point during his first term at the White House, according to CNN. A large majority of Republicans, 79%, say they think Trump will win re-election in 2020. That's not a shocker. 87% of Democrats said they don't expect that Trump will win another term. That is. I guess it's not surprising, because Democrats are generally arrogant, but that's very surprising that they think that. The poll also finds that 3/4 of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents think their party should nominate Trump again in 2020. Just 20% think the Republican Party should nominate a different candidate in 2020. The poll was conducted from March 22nd to the 25th among 1,014 adults. So let me tell you why I think this is very, very dangerous thinking. I'd like to know what you think too. So tell me in the chat what you think. Princess Fluffy Cakes, you'll have to invite me over so I could eat some of those fluffy cakes. Wow, that sounded really bad. I didn't mean it that way, Princess. Sometimes I just spew brain farts. What can I say? I was thinking fluffy cakes like cupcakes, you know? Anyway, let me tell you something, folks. Donald Trump, whether you like him, whether you hate him, Donald Trump is still fooling his base. He has not lost any of his base. In fact, I would say he's increased his base. He has been able to sell them on, saving plans, even though he hasn't. His tax cuts for the wealthy, he's been able to convince people in Wisconsin and Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania that it's for them. His tax cuts on steroids. Oh, now people are putting in fluffy cakes. He has been able to convince people that the wall is coming. The wall is coming, folks. He has been able to convince people that the wall is coming and make people forget that Mexico is going to pay for it. He has been able to basically mesmerize his base to the fact where even evangelicals, they don't care if he has sex with a porn star. They don't care if people associated with him possibly threaten a porn star. They don't care if he's grabbed women by the genitals against their will. They don't care. Donald Trump has not lost any part of his base, and I think he has grown his base. Hey, Jordan, are you and Jimmy Dore still cool? I really hope so. Hell yeah, I'm cool with Jimmy. I don't have the date, but I'm going to be going on Jimmy's show in the next few weeks, so stay tuned for that. I'm a big Jimmy Dore fan. He's been very supportive to me. So God bless Jimmy Dore. And I'm going to put it in one more time so you have it. That's patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. My business partner, Jen, who usually puts this stuff in the chat for me, is with family, so I'm having to do a little bit of everything. Thanks for sticking with me here. But if obviously for some reason, the link to my Patreon, when I do the HTTP, it's bringing a 404. So basically what I'm doing is putting the Patreon, what the name of the URL is, and you'll just have to type it into your browser. It's patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. Let me be clear. I would like to get back in the field. I would like to hire other reporters to get back in the field. We are currently shopping our business proposal out to potential progressive investors. Progressive investors. So we're looking for startup capital, but we're also looking for help from you guys, because I want to be a people-powered media company. A people-powered media company. So type into your browser, patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. What's $2 a month worth to you? What's $5 a month worth to you? What's $10 a month worth to you? If that money can go to us actually getting a microphone in corrupt politicians' face, it's worth it to me. And trust me, I'm going to be investing a lot of my scarce funds in this project. Jordan, don't forget to plug your other sites, Steemit, Twitch. Yes. Steemit.com/@Jordan Chariton. That's Steemit, STEEMIT.com/@Jordan Chariton. You have to sign up at Steemit. It takes a little longer than it should for them to approve you, and then they approve you. So Steemit.com/@Jordan Chariton. Thanks for the reminder, folks. Sorry that I'm having to type it in myself. Jen's with family today. God bless Jen, my business partner. So, thanks, Jordan. I'm about to get public transportation job and we'll be able to help. God bless. And by the way, for people that are living paycheck to paycheck and don't know if you're going to be able to put food on the table, I don't want your money. I don't want your money. Do not help me if it's going to hurt you. We all need to eat. We all need to put food on the table for our kids. Totally understand. But for those of you who can help, unlike, how do I say this gently? Unlike some other media outlets that have asked for your support and then not given what they said they were going to give, I am going to do what I say I'm going to do. If you support me, if you subscribe to me, that money is going to go where I said it's going to go. And you are going to know when I'm spending that money, what it's going to. Because I believe in transparency, folks. I believe in transparency. So if you subscribe, you're going to know where that money's going to. And that transparency starts with the Patreon itself. I'll show you the page so you have it. And then we'll get back to stories. This is the Patreon page. Jordan Chariton Reports. We currently have 137 patrons at $711 a month. We just launched the page, I believe, 2 weeks ago. So generally positive. I would like to get it up, obviously, to more. We are hoping to get it up to at least between 750 to 1,000 patrons in a month or two, because we really want to be able to show from an early stage when we're shopping to potential progressive investors that, hey, I haven't even gotten back in the field yet, and we already have a strong base of support. And by the way, this money per month is going towards paying my business partner, fully transparent, paying my business partner, paying for technical programs in the background that we're trying to use to boost up the production quality, paying for equipment that we're going to need to when we do launch the company, and also hopefully paying to bring in other reporters, because I have a few reporters in mind right now that I'd like to join me when we start, but got to get that number up, baby. Got to get that number up, baby. And as you can see on the Patreon, we have video diaries, which are my behind-the-scenes accounts of what's going on, including my joyous first time at the gun range over the weekend. Totally kidding. I hated every second of it, and I detail it there. You also have my podcast. This is a secret recording from January when I was in a very dark place. That is my first ever podcast. You could hear it right. You could go listen to it. I thought it was pretty good. I interviewed a resident from Flint, and I also had a very, very fun experiment about corporate media. This is my long-form interview with Matt Taibbi, Rolling Stone journalist, that we did last week, and there are other podcasts that are going to be going up. So I appreciate all of you supporting, even at the lowest levels. Let me show you the levels here. $2. At $2, hold on. $2 supporter. Real America at $5. Wanted to borrow from my bestie, Sarah Palin. Warrior at $10, Rabble Rouser at $20, Hero at $27, $50 for Visionary and Establishment's Top Enemy at $100. And each level, obviously, you get different perks, as well as monthly calls with me, monthly Ask Me Anythings, and all of those good things. So I can't thank you enough to the 137 that we already have, and I'm hoping that if everybody could do a little bit, if everybody could do a little bit, then I am going to be back in the field very, very soon. And most importantly, I am going to be back in the field answering to you, not former employers that I won't mention, not corporate parents, not plutocratic investors, you. So, getting back to Trump. I think that what's scary to me about this notion that Trump is, going to be not reelected is it continues to show the cognitive dissonance that media elites and large portions of the Democratic establishment and no Raytheon sponsorship in the pipeline. Hell no. Hell no. Or banks. Or Big Pharma. No. Or Silicon Valley, because Facebook, yuck. They don't get it. A lot of the Democratic Party thinks that it's enough that Trump is like crude and crass and tweets like a madman. They don't get it. They think that Trump, because he's banging porn stars or, tweeting and almost starting a nuclear war with Kim Jong-un, that this is going to be the end of Trump. His base doesn't care. And if the Democratic Party pushes a not progressive candidate like a Kamala Harris, like a Cory Booker, like a Kirsten Gillibrand, you're not going to get the numbers you need among Latinos or African Americans, which were down for Hillary Clinton. She had less African Americans than Barack Obama by, I believe, 5 percentage points. She had less Latinos than Barack Obama by 5 percentage points. She had less 18 to 29 than Barack Obama by 6 percentage points. You think Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, or Kamala Harris is going to boost those numbers? You think Kamala Harris, who just found where the bathroom is in the Senate, and I'm not saying it because I'm a sexist. Anytime you criticize a progressive female candidate, you're a sexist, you're a racist in the case of Kamala Harris. No. There is not enough of an actual record for anything. We don't need another Obama who's in the Senate for 2 minutes, pretends to lift the ocean, and hoodwinked me and probably hoodwinked a lot of you into thinking they're a progressive, and then gets in and continues doing the bidding for Wall Street, Big Pharma, and the military-industrial complex. Because frankly, that's what I see out of Kamala Harris. She hasn't done much. I see a lot of talk. I don't see a big record. But I do see her meeting for parties in the Hamptons with Hillary Clinton's top donors last summer. I do know that Kirsten Gillibrand has basically spent the last 10 years doing cocktail parties with Wall Street bankers and lobbyists here in New York. And now all of a sudden, she's not taking special interest money. Same thing for Cory Booker. We're not stupid. You're not stupid. And if they try to push Joe Biden, do I think Joe Biden would have a better chance against Donald Trump? Yes. But there's also a lot of bad that comes with Joe Biden. Let's be real. There's a lot of bad that comes with Joe Biden, including the Iraq War, including he wasn't talking about doing anything to the banks. It's not like he was fighting with Obama. He's pretty much for every war. He is pretty much for every trade deal that has decimated the states that he would have to beat Trump in: Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Barbara says, good to see you back, Jordan. Good to be back for you, Barbara. Thank you so much. Again, patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. Your support is going to help me get back in the field. So to button it up on Trump, I think it's very dangerous. I don't care what the poll says. It's only 1,000 people they interviewed. I think the mentality that Trump is going to most likely not win re-election, that mentality is actually probably going to help lead to his re-election. And make no mistake about it, just because I covered Democrats very harshly and Jimmy Dore covers Democrats very harshly, or Kyle covers Democrats very harshly, or Jamal Thomas or Lee Camp, or all the progressive media folks who cover Democrats equally, or if not more harshly than Trump, it doesn't mean we don't want to defeat Trump. I would love to defeat Trump. So just because I'm not foaming at the mouth every single day of my life, doing 7 or 8 stories a day on Donald Trump for clicks, doesn't mean I don't think he's dangerous, doesn't mean I don't think he should be defeated. What it does mean is we want him to be removed. We want to defeat extreme conservatism and extreme Tea Party republicanism and birtherism and all this racist nonsense faux populism with an actual vision, with a progressive vision, with a candidate that's actually going to do something for working people instead of talking about doing something for working people. You see what that looks like? There's doing something for working people, and then there's talking about doing something for working people. Dan McDonald says we need to focus on the corruption that got him in office. Bingo! Bingo! I totally agree with you, Joe McDonald. So, underestimate Donald Trump at your own peril. Because let me tell you something. Donald Trump, he's very stupid in a lot of areas, but there's one thing he does know. If he keeps ginning up that base, against the fake news media and all this nonsense, if he keeps, rubbing the back of old people and veterans by quadrupling the military budget, which it seems by the end of his presidency he would have done. The military budget just went up an astounding amount, supported by the Democratic Party, by the way. If he keeps naming 6 or 7 companies now and then that give a bonus to their employees because they just got triple in tax cuts and deregulation, or, oh, I'm going to bring a plant back to Wisconsin, which basically Wisconsin is paying Foxconn to come back. It's not in the interest of Wisconsin. His base and a lot of other people are going to say, hey, look, he said he was going to create jobs and he created jobs. Hey, look, he said he's going to build a big, scary military, and he did. His base doesn't care about what's happening to Stephon Clark in Sacramento. His base doesn't care that, maybe 1 or 2 plants came back, but he's not dramatically changing the outsourcing of jobs in this country. His base doesn't care that his administration is cutting heating assistance for poor or elderly people, or cutting services for Native Americans, as LaDonna Brave Bull Aller just told me in our podcast interview, which is also up on this channel. They don't care. So that's the news. Underestimate the Trump monster at your own peril. And in the rare instance, this is the rare instance that I do 2 Trump stories in a row. But this story isn't actually about Donald Trump. It's not about Donald Trump. It's something that his press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, excuse me. And I thought that this was the most astoundingly, she either knows she's lying or she's out of her goddamn mind. It's probably a mix of both. And I apologize, I'm a little late on this. I think she said this like a week ago. So I'm going to play this clip, and you tell me if something sounds wrong, okay? This is Sarah Huckabee Sanders about a week ago when asked a question by the media. Here we go.
Does the White House believe the election in Russia was free and fair?
I'm sorry?
Does the White House believe that the election in Russia was free and fair?
Look, in terms of the election, we're focused on our elections. We don't get to dictate how other countries operate. What we do know is that Putin has been elected in their country, and that's not something that we can dictate to them how they operate. We can only focus.
What is this? Did you just hear what I heard? Do I need to play that for you one more time? Okay, I'm going to play that for you one more time because it's absolutely insane. The hypocrisy, the tone deafness, and the utter ignorance of the last 20 years in America.
First, does the White House believe the election in Russia was free and fair?
I'm sorry?
Does the White House believe that the election in Russia was free and fair?
Look, in terms of the election, we're focused on our elections. We don't get to dictate how other countries operate. What we do know is that Putin has been elected in their country, and that's not something that we can dictate to them how they operate. We can only focus on the freeness and the fairness of our elections.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Apparently the United States of America, who's been interfering in elections all over the goddamn globe since the 40s, who's been rigging other countries' elections, including the 1996 election in Russia, which if you listen to my podcast with Rolling Stone's Matt Taibbi, who was a journalist in Russia when this was happening, that election was rigged by the United States. The United States has literally installed terrorist dictators to topple democratically elected leaders in Iran, Venezuela, Peru. I mean, the list goes on. And if you have time, folks, you got to watch The Untold History of the United States, Oliver Stone's documentary series. I'm not getting a check. He ain't paying me. But the amount, I mean, literally the United States foreign policy beyond a military buildup has been to interfere in other countries' elections, to topple democratically elected leaders because those democratically elected leaders wanted to nationalize their country's oil. The common denominator when the United States goes in to topple democratically elected leaders in other countries under the guise of, the big bad communism threat is, they say they want to nationalize their oil. That's what Fidel Castro said. And all of a sudden, Fidel Castro was a goddamn, was a very big, scary monster to basic humanity. Don't get me wrong. Communism in past has also been bad. What's his face? Stalin killed a lot of people in the name of communism. But you know what? So has capitalism. Let's stop pretending that we in the United States have clean hands. Let's stop pretending that we haven't been, forget meddling, directly interfering with other countries' elections. Let's not forget that we have spent so much of our resources on building up democracy in Iraq and Afghanistan. And if Hillary Clinton had her way in Syria and Iran at the expense of building up education in our country, at the expense of, building up infrastructure in our country, at the expense of, investing money so everybody could have health care in the United States of America, which, by the way, would actually help our economy more than dropping bombs on Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and Russia. For Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who lies for a living, so it's not a shock, but to make that comment that the United States of America doesn't have the right to interfere in other countries' elections like Russia, in theory, yes, she's absolutely right. But to say that when literally the CIA, which nickname for the CIA, which I learned through Oliver Stone's documentary, the CIA nickname is Capitalism's Invisible Army. Capitalism's Invisible Army. To say that we don't have the right? Yeah, you're about 60 years late to the party of interference all around the goddamn globe in the name of spreading democracy for the United States. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Eisenhower, and Truman. Kennedy wanted to put the kibosh on this military-industrial complex. Kennedy stopped the Cuban Missile Crisis from turning into World War III. against his military industrial complex neocon advisors. And Kennedy was killed. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but I'm just saying Kennedy was the last president who wanted to put an end to all that and start pulling back from us interfering around the whole world. And he was killed. I'm just saying. Lyndon B. Johnson interfered, his administration interfered in other countries' elections. Richard Nixon, I mean, need I say more? Even Jimmy Carter, who I think gets a bad rap, by the way. I like Jimmy Carter. So, I mean, I expect stupidity from the Trump administration. I expect lies like they come out like breaths. You know, when you breathe in the cold, it comes out vapor. I expect lies like that. But that was a doozy, what Sarah Huckabee Sanders said. And right after you subscribe to patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports, that's patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. After you do that important business, as I type it in the chat one more time, and again, you probably have to just copy the link here and put it into your browser. Your funds, your support are going to help me get in the field to expose idiots like that. But right after you do that, I encourage you tonight, get your local, you know, whatever your vice is, chocolate, wine, beer, smoke. Watch Oliver Stone's Untold History of the United States. Damn, Jordan, so thirsty. I am very thirsty. Hey, gotta ask for what you need in the world. We need funds to get it in the field. We need funds to hire other reporters. We need funds to hire a camera person. We need funds to get camera equipment. And I'm not going to do it the way some other outlets did it. I'm not bringing on Democratic Party plutocrats to give me money. I ain't taking money from George Soros. Not doing it. Moving on. So, as you know, I have covered the Flint water crisis extensively. It is a story that is near and dear to my heart. It is a story that I think is very symbolic of a lot of the major faults in our government, in our oligarchy. It is a story of environmental racism. Frankly, it's a story of just straight up racism. It's a story of our government that are bought off by corporations not giving a damn about poor people, even after they're poisoned. It's a story of corruption. It's a story of privatization gone very, very, very wrong. It's a story of all those things. And in a few weeks, it's going to be 4 years. 4 years since the Flint water crisis began. 4 years since they switched that water. I mean, that's astounding. That is astounding that it's that long. And they still can't drink their water. This is America. This is a first world country. This is a country that calls itself the leader of democracy. Well, this is not the leader of democracy. This is how can you call something the leader in democracy if we are literally, hold on one second, if we are literally still 4 years out where these poor people cannot drink their water. And you want to talk about democracy under attack from Russia? You want to talk about democracy under attack by Russian trolls and troll farms? I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. Our democracy is under attack by plutocrats and bought-off government officials like Michigan Governor Rick Snyder. Our democracy is under attack because we have basically people like Rick Snyder and his minions, like his right-hand man, essentially saying, oh, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Our democracy is under attack when people who still cannot drink their water are not even getting responses from their government. And you want to talk? You want to talk about democracy under attack? So then the latest in this democracy under attack, real democracy under attack, comes from a man named Dr. Mark Edwards. Dr. Mark Edwards was the EPA-funded scientist. The EPA has funded him to the tune of $168,000. And he has then gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant money from private foundations in Michigan that the state of Michigan initiated so he could get those grants. And Mark Edwards, if you don't know the story, he was the first to identify the Flint water crisis. He then started getting grant money from the EPA, and all of a sudden, his water testing that he was doing, the EPA was funding his water testing, started showing rapid improvement in the water quality in Flint. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? All of a sudden, his water testing was coming back roses. And in September of last year, he declared Flint's water now normal. Now normal. After his 2-year water testing. Well, I have been working, before I was fired from the Young Turks, I was about to publish a major investigative piece on his testing. I have Erin Brockovich on the record. I have plumbers on the record. I have water experts on the record. I have residents on the record. And from my reporting and my investigation and hard data and hard science, his testing has a lot of holes in it. And his testing is frankly being used to declare the Flint water crisis over and to declare the lead levels in the water now normal. And this is a problem beyond Flint because we have the EPA basically funding scientists, and those scientists basically coming back with reports that are kind of favorable in what the EPA wants them to report. And if people from Flint are watching right now, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And why this is important, even if you don't live from Flint, is we need non-biased, we need scientists with integrity that are going to do testing not to show improving numbers for the agency funding them, but are going to do enough sample sizes. His sample size in his test, which I'm going to show in my reporting, his sample size in his testing is very, very small. He's basically declaring Flint's water normal by looking at 34 homes in Flint. You heard me. He's basically declaring Flint's water normal by looking at 34 homes in Flint. So I want to read you the latest news story because Mark Edwards loves being in the news. Let me tell you, loves being in the news. So here we go. Oh, 1 second. One Flint researcher files complaint with state against another. So guess who's filing the complaint? One Flint water researcher has turned his issues with another into a licensed complaint with the state of Michigan. Virginia Tech professor Mark Edwards, who I just described to you, again, his reporting, his water testing I have looked into has a large number of holes in it. And it is being used to declare the water in Flint normal. So basically people are now being told their water is safe to drink by very, very dubious science. And I'm hoping to get this piece published by an outlet that I'm talking to right now, very soon. Virginia Tech professor Mark Edwards has filed a statement of complaint against the professional engineering license of Sean McElmurray, the Wayne State University researcher who led an investigation into Legionnaire's disease in Flint during the city's water crisis. Dr. McElmurray appropriated ideas that were not his for a National Institute of Health research proposal, Edwards' complaint says. He also repeatedly claimed that he had been working on Flint water problems since 2010. Edwards claims McElmurray, quote, leveraged those falsifications into leading the Flint area community health and environment partnerships, Legionnaire's research, funded by $3.35 million in state funds. FACHEP ended its relationship with the state at the end of last year without discovering a certain cause of outbreaks of Legionnaires. But it published studies saying 80% of cases in Genesee County between 2014 and 2015 can be linked to the city's drinking water supply. Edwards and the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services have called FACHEP's work flawed, and the complaint says McElmurray's, quote, lack of competence and expertise led to the criminal prosecution of the Director and Chief Medical Executive at the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, I want to explain this so if you don't live in Flint, you understand what's happening. Basically, there have been 15 people charged in relation to the Flint water crisis. The top 2 officials are now having their preliminary exams in Flint. One is Nick Lyon, and he is the Director of Health and Human Services for the state of Michigan. The other is Eden Wells, and she is the Chief Medical Executive for the state of Michigan. Both of them have been charged with involuntary manslaughter for the water crisis. Both of them, there is lots of evidence that they both knew well before they said they did about the problems with Flint's water, that they tried to, in Wells' case in particular, that she tried to stop information from getting out, that she tried to stop people who were trying to get the information from receiving it. Basically, that they did a lot of things to try and suppress the information from getting out and to try and from stopping to warn the residents early enough before the damage was permanent. Mark Edwards on Monday and Tuesday of this week testified in their preliminary examinations in their defense. He testified for Nick Lyon and he testified for Eden Wells, basically saying that they were unfair scapegoats and that they didn't deserve to be basically criminally charged. I want to be clear. I do not have proof. I do not have proof that Mark Edwards has been paid off by the state of Michigan. But I do know that a lot of his grant money that came from private foundations like the Mott Foundation were orchestrated by the state of Michigan. I do know that after he got grant money from the EPA, after he got grant money from these private foundations, that the state of Michigan, meaning Rick Snyder's administration, helped him get those grants, all of a sudden, his water testing was showing reduced numbers of lead, even though he's declaring one of the most poisoned cities in the history of the United States, he's declaring their water normal compared to other cities with old lead pipes by only looking at a subset of 34 homes. He looked at 34 homes to declare the water normal. He did not use plumbers to even verify what the service line material was in those homes. Meaning, according to EPA regulations, the lead and copper rule, you have to, half of your sample has to come from lead service line pipes. Pipes connected to lead service lines in the street. The other half of your sample has to come from either pipes with lead solder or copper pipes with lead solder. He tested 34 homes, and he did not even confirm whether those homes had lead service lines. The only way, which my reporting shows, once this piece gets out, it's very thorough, it's a long report. Erin Brockovich is on the record, others are on the record. The only way to confirm what the service line material of the homes you're testing are by sending plumbers in to verify it in the basement. And by the way, this is broader than Flint because other states and other cities and other municipalities are skirting around the EPA regulation and not doing scientific verification of what materials they're testing. So if the EPA's regulation says you need to cover X, you need to test X amount of homes connected to lead service lines or homes with lead solder in the pipes, and you're not confirming that in any way. He told me in my reporting, I'm searching for homes age on Google. And this is, by the way, what the media then regurgitates. So Mark Edwards, who his testing is not scientific enough, it's not thorough enough, it has a lot of holes in it. Erin Brockovich doesn't go on the record against just anyone. I have plumbers on the record against his testing. I have other water experts on the record against his testing. The researcher that he has filed a complaint with in the state of Michigan, I also know through several sources that Mark Edwards would not give this researcher his water testing data. So the researcher needed data from the state and Mark Edwards, federally funded testing, to do his own research. And Mark Edwards wouldn't give him his data. Well, why is that, Dr. Edwards? Why wouldn't Mark Edwards give him his data or access to his results? That sounds interesting. If you're a scientist who wants to help the situation, why wouldn't you give your data? It's not a state secret. Why wouldn't you give it to researchers trying to get more information, trying to expand our understanding of what caused the Legionella outbreak in Flint, of what caused the lead crisis? Why wouldn't you do that? I have a statement here from Sean McElmurray. He gave this to me. I emailed him today and he got back to me. So I appreciate that. This is the researcher who has now had a complaint filed against him by Dr. Mark Edwards. His response to Dr. Mark Edwards. It is very unfortunate when individuals resort to a personal and unfounded attack rather than relying on sound science and rigorous methods. Such attacks do not help us advance understanding or help the people of Flint. Sadly, there is a well-established pattern. Sadly, there is a well-established pattern of distortions and misinformation by some of the researchers and investigators working in Flint. That was a subtle way of saying, sadly, there is a well-established pattern of distortions and misinformation by Mark Edwards. Unlike some individuals, meaning Mark Edwards, I have been working as part of a multidisciplinary team of experts comprised of colleagues from the University of Michigan, Michigan State University, Kettering University, Colorado State University, and Henry Ford Health System. Our work has been peer-reviewed and accepted for publication in some of the most prestigious scientific journals in the nation. I stand by the quality of our science and the integrity of our work in Flint and deny the allegations recently raised. The claims made against our group are false, and they are examples of unprofessional and destructive conduct. That is a statement Sean McElmurray, who is a professor at Wayne State University in Michigan, gave me in response to Dr. Mark Edwards, essentially, I don't know, trying to get his engineering license revoked. I don't know what Edwards is really attempting here. And why this is important? No, it doesn't involve Trump. No, it doesn't involve Russia. Why it's important is this kind of shoddy science is being done around the United States, folks. This kind of shoddy science is being done around the United States of America. To declare water that is not safe to drink, safe. So your kids could be drinking dangerous water, whether it's lead, whether it's PFAS chemicals, which have been found in North Carolina, Ohio, and other places now. They are cancer-causing chemicals used in the production and manufacturing of cooking software like Teflon. Your water is not guaranteed safe. And there are scientists, frankly, whose science, funded by the EPA, is very questionable. And now you have those scientists essentially going to speak up and testify for public health officials in Michigan that there's a lot of evidence that they did hide very, very important facts from the public and from Flint, that they did try to suppress information from getting out, that they did try to suppress more testing being done. And Mark Edwards just stood on the stand and defended those people. 2, Nick Lyon and Eden Wells. And now Mark Edwards is filing a complaint against a researcher that, from sources I have, who I trust, Mark Edwards wouldn't even give him the data so he could do his research. The state of Michigan brought on Sean McElmurray, and Mark Edwards wouldn't give him the data. Very questionable. Very questionable. I'm going to move on to another story here. As a reminder for the 120 left, I really appreciate everybody who's subscribing. We got a few Patreon subscribers while I've been live. I want to give you their names and thank them personally, signing up for my Patreon here. So we got, hold on one second. What will be. This internet. Thank you to Joshua Bessam, who just pledged $5. Thank you to Andre Walton, who just pledged $2. Thank you to Diane Gilbert, who just pledged $2. Thank you, guys. You guys are going to help me get in the field. You guys are going to help me create this company, this media revolution. As a reminder, the name for the company is trademarked. The logo is done. The business proposal is being shopped around as we speak. So every one of you who subscribe is helping me get out there faster. Every one of you who subscribes is helping me do the journalism you want to see. I don't mind doing stuff from my apartment for the time being while my back heals from surgery and all these things. But I want to get back out there. We need to expose oligarchy. We need to expose corruption. So it's patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. Thank you. So, another story that I found astounding, and this is a bit of a Trump-heavy day, but I can't ignore this story. So, I think this was said the other day. The White House calls police shootings of African Americans a local matter. A local matter in response to Stephon Clark's murder in Sacramento. The shooting deaths of African Americans by police officers that have prompted nationwide radical tensions are local matters to be dealt with by local authorities, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders told reporters at her Wednesday press briefing. Certainly a terrible incident. This is something that is a local matter, and that's something that we feel should be left up to the local authorities at this point in time. Sanders said in response to a question about the acquittal of 2 Baton Rouge, Louisiana police officers involved in the 2016 murder, if you saw the video, it was murder, of Alton Sterling in Louisiana. Sanders was also asked about the recent fatal shooting of Stephon Clark in California and the 2014 death of Eric Garner. So let's be clear, and this isn't exclusive to Donald Trump. This is the Republican Party. This is Republican governors. Frankly, there have been some Democrats guilty of this. When they say this is a local matter, the murder of African Americans, the genocide of African Americans in this country, let's call it what it is. It is murder. We cannot allow this nonsense anymore, where the police, oh, we thought he was going for his gun when he had a cell phone. Pretty soon, people are going to have the things you blow bubbles for your kids. Pretty soon, they're going to find that they had bubbles. But these police officers who seem to be very scared, even though they're trained to operate a gun and have quicker reflexes than the average citizen, if they see any movement of somebody's arms, shoot to kill. Because the police value their lives more than the people they're supposed to serve and protect. And I don't want to generalize all police. I happen to know some police in my life that are good people and actually want to protect people. But we have to call it what it is. This is now a pattern of genocide. This is a pattern of police terrorism. This is a pattern of police consistently getting off for murdering African Americans 9 out of 10 times who do not have a gun. And there was no reason to think they had a gun other than the color of their skin. And for Donald Trump's administration and the Republican Party overall to pretend this is a local matter, that's essentially telling your base, Blue Lives Matter. These are publicly funded officers. We pay their salaries. So I don't care if you want to call it a local matter. I don't care if you want to call it a national matter. I don't care if you want to call it, a Make America Great matter. I don't care what you want to call it. But this is not a matter just for Sacramento. This is not a matter just for Sanford, Florida. This is not a matter, Anthony Lamar Smith in St. Louis, when I was arrested covering those rallies. This is not a matter just for St. Louis. This is a matter for the United States, who was founded on murdering and stealing the land of Native Americans and oppressing and enslaving African Americans. And we as white people, whether you're a journalist, a commentator, a viewer, a social justice warrior, whatever the hell you want to call yourself, cannot stand by anymore and allow these platitudes and these talking points that defend murder to stand. period. That's why when I'm in the field, one more time, patreon.com/Jordan Chariton reports, your support is going to get me back out there. When I'm in the field, that's why I plan on covering protests around the country. That's why I plan on covering not just the police brutality, but the economic brutality being done to these communities of African Americans. Because this is state-sponsored terrorism. Let's call it what it is. This is state-sponsored terrorism. And I will not sit by and act like it's a local matter or act like, oh, well, you know, there'll be an investigation, so it'll all work out. No. There's going to be an investigation in Sacramento for Stephon Clark's murder. And you know what? They're going to find the police did the right thing. We know this. That's what happens. All of these cases. Because the police protect the police, not the people. And I am not anti-police. Speaking the truth about what is going on in America does not make you anti-police. I am somebody who values black lives as much as I value my life. I am somebody who values a black 3-year-old the same way that I value my white 3-year-old nephew. I am somebody who on the road have had some of the best times of my life with African Americans or Native Americans or Latinos or transgender people. We got to stop talking of ourselves like we're a democracy. Got to stop talking of ourselves like some shining city on a hill. Do you watch the Sunday morning shows? How many black people do you see as guests on the Sunday morning shows on ABC or NBC or CBS? How many black people do you see as CEOs around America? And you know what? At a certain point, you know, I want to be clear, I do not condone violence. I do not call for violence in any form. I don't think that's the way. But at a certain point, this inaction by our government, this covering up for police, this allowing of murder and genocide of black people, it is going to lead to violence. I do not want violence. I don't believe we should have violence as a response, but that's what it's going to lead to, and I always keep it real. People can only take for so long terrorism against them. And that's what's happening. This is terrorism. Police, it's beyond training at this point. The culture needs to change because there is no objective person who believes this nonsense anymore. Oh, I thought he had a gun, you know, because he waved his hands in the air. Or, you know, he was shown to have a cell phone. At a certain point, you don't shoot someone unless you actually see a gun in their hands. You are trained as a police officer to have a quicker reflex. You are trained as a police officer to shoot professionally and accurately and like laser-like. You are trained as a police officer to react quicker than somebody who might shoot at you. So the standard can no longer be, well, we thought he was reaching for something. No. That's not a rationale. That's a cover-up. That's not a rationale. That's murder. Can you imagine if I went out and shot someone tomorrow and just said, well, it looked like he had a gun? Do you think I would be let off scot-free? It's a disgrace. And to give you an update on what's going on with Stephon Clark, who was murdered. Today was his funeral. Al Sharpton, who, you know, let's call it what it is. He's a very polarizing figure. He spoke, and there are huge crowds expected for more protests. I'll read you a little bit. This is from the Los Angeles Times. Stephon Clark, the unarmed African-American man fatally shot by Sacramento police earlier this month, will be laid to rest Thursday amid more protests over his death. Our large group of family members, friends, and activists, including Reverend Al Sharpton, will attend the funeral. Protests are expected through the day and into night, including outside a Sacramento Kings game. They have had protests outside of Sacramento King basketball games now for several days. More than an hour before, more than an hour before Clark's funeral was set to begin, a line of more than 100 mourners snaked through the parking lot. Some wore shirts bearing Clark's name or photograph, others carried signs. Sharif Ali didn't know Clark, but he came to support the family. Quote, "It's shocking what happened to Stefan," he said. He said the next step will be police reform and hopefully a change in policies. Lena Williams waited outside the church with her 3 children. She said the shooting wasn't surprising, but rather common and expected. She said she is glad people are not being quiet. Quote, "If we do things the right way, we could be an example," she said. She cautioned the residents the residents don't yet know both sides, but said she hopes the police department can take a look of biases and policies. Quote, "There's so much more to this." Michelle Dillenhunt wore a shirt with 2 photographs of Clark on the back. She said she used to live near his family when her children, now 28 and 21, were growing up. Quote, "The police have killed too many people and got away with it," she said. "No matter what, it was overkill." You know, I as a white person, I'm not going to pretend to know what African Americans go through in this country because I don't know. None of us could know if we're not black. But what I do know is the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Frankly, I think you're probably going to see more economic boycotts around this country. You are going to see more protest around this country. Unfortunately, you're going to see more violence around this country from fed up African Americans who don't know what else to do. I am not calling for that. I stand against that. I would preach nonviolence in all forms. But the Trump administration, I mean, they just show their subtle and not so subtle racism by saying this is a local matter. Let me tell you something. If a Muslim shot a white person in the streets and that made the news, you better believe that wouldn't be a local matter for President Trump or his administration or any Republican governor around this country. Thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. Patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. Gonna type it in one more time, folks. I can't thank you enough for those who have been subscribing. Your subscriptions are gonna help me get back in the field. As a Patreon, you get exclusive access to my daily video diaries. You get exclusive access to my podcasts. I'm doing 2 podcasts a week. One is free. The premium one is for patrons. You're gonna get exclusive access to photos. You're going to get news first, especially the name of the company and other new exciting news. Thank you for your support. I really, really hope, and I'm asking at this point, and I'm pleading at this point. I am really pleading for you to go subscribe. $2 a month, $5 a month. I'm not asking you for money so I could go have a lavish dinner. I'm asking you for money so I could go report on the plight of poor people, so I could go report on environmental genocide, so I could go report on police brutality, so I could get in the field and expose the oligarchy and fascism that is permeating our country, and so I could hire other people to do it with me. Thank you for watching. Peace.